Okay, team. So I'm going to quickly show you how to actually pull the student profile report in NWEA. Okay, so of course, you first need to be logged into NWEA. When you get here, you're going to click on Map Growth. And then the one that you're looking for is going to be the student profile. So you'll click here for student profile. Now, once you get to the student profile screen, it should look like this. And what you want to do first is select the term. So the term should be spring 2024, 2025. You can pull this for any term. So if this was going to be for BOY, you could do the same thing for BOY. It would say winter. So it just depends on the term. Once you have your term rostered, you want to select your school. I'm not sure if everyone has the entire district, but if you do, then you want to find your campus. However, I think for teachers, it should only be your campus. Then you want to select the instructor. Since you're pulling your own data reports for your students, then you need to find your name. But since I'm doing it on behalf of another teacher, just a model, then I'm going to choose Mr. Armenta. I'm also going to go here, then I'm going to select his homeroom right here. And then I'm going to just start off with the first student that's on the roster. Okay. So pretty much I'm just do a quick recap. Term rostered is for whatever the term you want to see the data for. For us, we want to pull EOY data. So we're going to pull the spring. You want to choose your campus, choose your name as the instructor, choose your homeroom or start with your group that you want to pull data for. And then you can just select the first student that appears on that list. Then you're going to go here and you're going to view student profile. Now, once I come here right now, I'm not trying to do a data analysis, so I'm not really worried about all of these pieces. My key is to print the student profile, and I want to do a batch print, meaning I want to be able to print all of my students that's in that homeroom. So I'm going to go up here to the top where you see my cursor, top right, and it says print and share. So I'm going to click that button. Once I click that, then I want to hit batch print. It is the second option, so you want to click there. Once you select batch print, I'm going to take some time and I'm going to slow down here on this screen. Now, the purpose of us doing this print is for us to be able to plan for the BOY for the upcoming school year. Okay, so that's the number one reason why we're looking at EOY data, right? Number two, I know that Mr. Armenta is a second grade self-contained teacher. Okay, so if I am a self-contained teacher in second grade, knowing my students are going to third grade, I do not want to select all of these options like this, okay? That's a no. We do not want that, okay? We do not want this in our summary. Instead, what Mr. Armenta will do, he will go content by content. So the first content that we're going to do for him is just going to be math. Then he will come back, he'll do the same steps, and then he's just going to choose reading. And if he wants to, he can include the reading Spanish with that. So he could, if we were doing reading, I could select reading and reading Spanish together because in essence, it's the same assessment, just one in English, the others in Spanish. It will help the teacher, the third grade teacher, then determine which is the best language for assessments as well as for daily DOLs, okay? So we want to have both of those reports and they can be print together. Now, language usage, we do not utilize this report at all, so no one should have this one. The third report should be the science, okay? So I'm just going to do a recap again. If my students are going into a third grade level class, then I need for those to be separated out completely because they will have a different math teacher, a different reading teacher, and then a teacher for science. And so those students, in essence, will have 3 different binders next school year. So as a second grade teacher, I'm just going to select math and run my batch report for all of my students that's in my homeroom just for math. Then I will come back and I will do reading. And yes, I will include the reading Spanish if I, in fact, have students who have been receiving instruction in Spanish as well, such as Mr. Armenta's homeroom. Okay. Once I'm done with the reading, because that's my second report, I'm going to do my last report, which is science. All right. So no one should have a language usage report. Now, I'm going to do this, give the same rationale. If I am a kinder teacher, okay, so I have kinder teachers that will be doing this. You are going to just make sure, of course, I know kinder, they don't test in reading, but you have the math report. These reports, then you'll still put it in a folder, but it will go to the first grade team, okay? So that that first grade math teacher can now have their data on how they perform during EOY. All right. So every kinder teacher should be doing the same thing, and you're printing it. And then you're going to put each student profile in a separate folder and then give that to the first grade math teacher. I'm going to go back for first grade. First grade, your students are going into what? Second grade. So if I'm a first grade teacher, I'm going to select my math for my homeroom. I'm going to make sure that once that prints for every single student, that every student that's currently in my first grade class has a folder that will then go to their second grade math teacher. Okay. Lastly, I want to talk about my self-contained first grade teacher. So if I have all of my kids, I teach them all of the content. It goes back to my same example that I talked about with Mr. Armenta, okay? Because I want to make sure that those students, that all of their reports are together, all right? So I would, if I'm a self-contained first grade teacher, I know my students, they are definitely going to a self-contained second grade class next school year. That is the only time that I should see all of these selected. Okay. Otherwise, they must be separated. So the only teacher as of right now who would select all of these will be Miss Giles. She could, in essence, if there was data for all of these areas, she could print it. But what we do know is that first grade don't take science. They don't take reading. Okay. They only have math. So just want to let you know that unless your kids are going into a self-contained classroom, no one should have all of those printed on one report. We're going to separate them out by content so that we're creating our content binders for each student. And when those students show up back at the beginning of the school year, that teacher has that data from EOY and then can utilize that data as they're customizing their lessons and their instruction even during the summer. Okay, so now let's get back on track for the modeling. Again, this is Mr. Armenta. I know his students are going to third grade math, so then I'm just selecting math by itself. I'm not selecting any other content area. Then I'm going to hit next. When I come here, I do want to know what the student is projected to do for next school year. So I'm going to deselect SAT, ACT, and start EOC. I do want to keep, again, if these are students who receive instruction in Spanish, I would like to know what their projected proficiencies are for STAR and for STAR Spanish. So I'm going to leave those two checks. So that's everyone from second upward. You want to include your STAR proficiencies in there. Then when I come here, it says select pages. I want to ensure that I also have the instructional areas, okay? And I do not want to group by topic. I want to group by standard. This will make more sense as we actually utilize these reports. We'll go into it so you can understand why I want the standard and not the topic. So when you hit this third check button, make sure that you group it by standard. Do not do it by topic. Otherwise, you will have to reprint. Lastly, I would like to know what is going to be their growth goals, meaning coming up. Now, typically, we always say, well, students don't have BOY goals. But if we're looking at EOY, in our mind, we know that the student should not start at the bottom come BOY, right? Because this perhaps is their second, perhaps even third year in NES or within our system. So we want to be able to track their progress and see how they ended the year and then how they're starting the year in August. So I would like to see those growth goals. Now you can hit next. When you come here, remember the goal was to print this for every student in your homeroom. You do not want to have to click for 20 something kids, even if it's 17, plus kids. You want to be able to do this one time and be done and come back to the next content area, right? So you want all students in this class. Then you do not do the first one. That's not the one. You want the test results. You want to click on the second one. It will create page breaks for you so that it does not print the somebody else's reports together. Okay, so we create the page breaks for you. You don't even have to worry about that. They're already built in. So now we're ready to actually create this report. So now you're going to click here, create PDF report. All right, so now what we're going to do, you see at the top, it says once it's ready, it will be available in the reports queue. So I'm going to go ahead and go to the reports queue by clicking on that button. And once the report is ready, it will allow you to download it. So as of right now, it's letting me know that it's processing. Okay, so as we're going through this step and we're allowing the report to generate on its own, I want just to remind you just of a few things, okay? Your goal is to print this for every single student so that you're then able to support with the customization, the targeted instruction that will be planned for students. And so we can actually begin planning really during the summer. So if we have the data, you know how your students perform in math, we're going to do the same thing for dibbles. You know how they perform on dibbles. Then we can already begin to anticipate where students will have gaps and where students need support. And then we can go ahead and begin our customization process for our slide decks, or at least in the back of our mind, already begin to plan some of the designated supports that we will embed in our instruction from the first day of school. Because keep in mind, we start instruction the very first day of school. All right. So I'm going to go here. I'm just going to hit my refresh button just to see if I can kind of help this process a little bit. And sometimes it will kind of kick you out. You'll have to come back, but here it is. It said it's ready to view. So this is how it looks when it's actually ready. So now you want to click on download. And do know that your reports will stay there for you. So let's say that, hey, I didn't want to wait and I just go ahead and go to my next content. You can go back into NWEA. You'll need to open up another tab to do that. And you can start running, your next report while you're waiting for the first one to generate. Sometimes it doesn't generate as quickly as you want it to. So you don't have to sit there and wait like I did. You can actually just go ahead and move on. Okay, so because it's a large file, sometimes it does take a little while to actually pull up. So just be a little patient. And just FYI, you can do this from home. I would suggest you do it here on campus so you can actually print them. And that's what everyone should be doing today in PLC. But just FYI, if you wanted to do any of this like at home and you say, hey, you know what, I want to look at the reports myself, you can. So let's say I am going to teach third grade math next year, but I want to see how my second graders did this year, then that third grade teacher can go through the same process. You can do this from home, and then you can see those just in case, you don't have that profile with you. All right, so as soon as this pulls up, you'll be able to print this. And again, it's already set to print two-sided, and it's already set to have the page breaks so that you don't have two student reports printed together on the same page. So it already does all of that for you. The only thing you need to do here is just print. Now, once you actually print the report, then you're going to hole punch and you should be placing it in a folder. So every single student should have their own folder and or binder. So that means if I have 17 students, right, I should have 17 folders. So keep that in mind. So when I look here, it says homeroom 17 students. So that means that every student that's listed here should have their own folder and or binder. Now, who's responsible for creating this? Mr. Armenta. He's a second grade teacher. So he's taking these folders, and then these folders will be provided to the third grade math teacher for next school year. What should Mr. Armenta get? He should be receiving folders and binders as well from the previous school year's teacher. So that's why we're doing this now. This is our EOY data planning, and is also part of our analysis pieces. So when I come here, I can see Brianna Gary, I can see her report, and then I can go ahead, and if I would like to, I can go ahead and I can begin to print this. Okay. Now, what you're going to notice about these reports is also going to give you areas, right, where the students need to develop, areas where they're ready to grow. So if I am a third grade math teacher and I see, hey, you know what? She needs help with pictorial models to solve word problems. I already know that this is going to be a major theme in third grade, then I can begin to be very intentional, and I can already begin to create this binder with some other type of work for her to complete to ensure that she's ready when we come back in the beginning of the year. I do not need to wait for BOY because I have EOY data that should inform my BOY instruction. When I get my BOY data, it's not something that I really will plan around because I'm going to plan based on where she stopped or landed at EOY in order to customize and target her during my LSAE time, because she's going into what, third grade. If the student is going to first grade or second grade, this is where you will use this data during your intervention block to provide interventions for students who are then moving into first and or second grade. You guys have intervention time. For third, fourth, and fifth, you have LSAE time as well as a third teach time that you will utilize this data for to support the student. Okay. So this is pretty much all that you needed to do. And then of course you're going to hit print, and then you'll be able to print the data reports. And that's pretty much it. If you still have questions after watching this video, please see your available AP. You can send me an email. But what I will tell you, take the time to go back, pause, rewatch any areas where you still have questions. I tried to be pretty thorough with this particular video because it is more so of an intro video if you've never gone through this process. And then it also gives the rationale as to why we're doing the pieces that we're doing now. Okay. But I do want to thank you guys so much for your time. Again, if you have any questions, please reach out to your grade level administrators.